between Israel and Iran, which has already drawn in other countries in the region and active international parties such as Britain and the United States, the West, more than ever before, is striving to prevent escalation. This is how the writer and Middle East expert, Dr. David Roberts, views the scene, which he says threatens to escalate into something larger than a regional war, as stated in his article in the British newspaper, The Independent. The Shadow War and Escalation Possibilities. The British writer, who lectures at King's College London, believes that the crux of the matter lies in what is commonly referred to as the shadow war between Israel and Iran, which has been ongoing for decades, noting that it has always been likely that tension would worsen to reach the current state. He asks, but to what extent will things deteriorate? Before responding to Israel's bombing of its consulate in Damascus earlier this month, Iran issued an early warning to Israel and the United States about its intentions, allowing the alliance time to prepare for an imminent attack. Additionally, it did not ask its Lebanese ally, Hezbollah, to deploy a large number of its missiles, which amount to 150,000. Roberts noted in his article that Iran's response resulted in only one critical casualty, a 7-year-old Palestinian girl from 1948 territories. He wonders whether this is a failure for Iran or a carefully calculated strike that could yield maximum political fallout with minimal damage. Implications of Iranian statements. Writer pointed out statements from the Iranian mission to the United Nations that the response to the bombing of its consulate in Syria was over and considered finished. He said that these statements indicate that the Iranian leadership needed a calculated retaliation, showing its reluctance to launch a devastating strike that could prompt widespread Israeli retaliation, possibly with American involvement. Roberts expects Israel to retaliate against the Iranian attack, because the leadership in Tel Aviv, like its counterpart in Tehran, cannot consider it a trivial matter and will not let it pass without punishment. The scale of Israeli response. At the very least, Israel may continue what it has been doing for some time, which is targeting Iranian proxies in the Middle East and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces in Syria and Iraq, according to the article's author, who believes that broader targeting of Tehran-affiliated groups in Iraq and Yemen may also be possible. There may also be narrow military strikes against Iranian drone manufacturing facilities or its military equipment, seen as relatively limited attacks. According to the Independent article, concerns are mounting significantly regarding scenarios in which Israel may target Iran's nuclear program. The bright side. The only bright side in this scenario from the writer's perspective is that most analyses indicate that Israel cannot carry out such an operation alone but would need the US forces stationed in the Gulf for a reasonable chance of success. So far, the US administration has declined to join any such operation. There is a possibility that Israel may make more rational calculations, leading its leaders to acknowledge that the Iranian military establishment embarrassed itself with such an ineffective attack, and that Israel was fortunate that the attack was not more complicated and did not involve Hezbollah forces. It is difficult for Israel to bear another $1 billion to defend itself, as it did on that night alone, and the global perspective is leaning more towards viewing Israel as David facing the Iranian Goliath, or good versus evil, leading to a reduction in the atrocities committed by the occupying forces in the Gaza Strip in the hierarchy of current events. Scenario of major attack. The writer also believes that it is highly likely that the Lebanese Hezbollah will stand by Iran and attack northern Israel if Iran is subjected to a major Israeli attack. It is speculated that this escalation in conflict will not be limited to the Levant region, as the Houthi group in Yemen will increase their targeting of commercial ships in the Red Sea, and resume their attacks on Gulf states. However, the writer says it is difficult for a scenario to occur where the escalating conflict spills over from the Middle East to Europe, East or South Asia, or a large part of Africa. Roberts continues his speculations, saying that the economic and geographical impact of the intermittent conflict erupting in various parts of the Middle East may unleash oil prices, thereby undermining global economic recovery. Amidst these bleak possibilities, Western intervention to prevent all parties engaged in the conflict from escalating becomes more crucial than ever, according to the writer.